thank the European Periyar Ambedkarite Comrades Federation for organizing a conference about Periyar and Indian politics. I congratulate you and also thank you for inviting me to be part of it. And today, Periyar is one of the most relevant names we can think of when it comes to Indian politics, and especially when it comes to Indian contemporary politics. This is something we don't have to say. Even this morning, near Tiruchi, a Periyar statue was vandalized. And they tried to pour saffron color on the statue of Periyar. This just goes to prove how he is still relevant, how important he is to the Indian politics. People have said many times that, God on the days of the Dravidian movement, and we've gone past, life has moved past that, and time and days and technology, everything has moved past that, and it's become irrelevant. But time and again, when any issue comes up, the only way the BJP and the Sanghis see, the only way out of it and to divert attention is to vandalize a Periyar statue. In other parts of India, of course, they use the help of people like Deepika Padukone and Hollywood stars, to divert issues. But when in Tamil Nadu, he is the most relevant, and time and again, they go back to him. They insult him. They bring up his name. They insult his statues. So it is not the relevance we are talking about. We know what he means to us, but he is still a living memory. He is still a philosophy. He is still an ideology which shakes them up, which shatters them. All fear people who talk against social justice. So this is the relevance of Periyar. That they have to go back to hurt him, to insult him, to be irrelevant in politics today. And that is the greatest fear, because he is an answer. He is the complete opposite of what they are trying to, portray today, what they are trying to say, and what they dream of making India to be. It's a completely antithesis of what they are trying to project in front of us. You talk about the farmers bill, you talk about environment, you talk about the national education policy. Everything is anti people, anti majority, but still this government talks about how the Dravidian movement is against the majority Hindus. The new education policy, it's completely what the RSS agenda is. The only institution which is very happy about the new education policy today is the RSS. They are the only ones who said most of our recommendations have been accepted. They are the only ones who are, supporting the new education policy. Otherwise, all of us have issues. Even the states which are supporting the new education policy have problems with it. And of course, in Tamil Nadu, we have much more to say than the other states, because when it comes to the language policy, when it comes to something which we have opposed tooth and nail, the Kulakalvi Thittam, where the traditional skills of our forefathers have to be learned by our children. Sending them back to learn the trades of your forefathers and not giving them a choice about it. So that is again, brought in by this, and they're weaning away. They're making this education system as a sieve. You have exams in the third, in the fifth, and in the eighth, to take away students from the education system. They're talking about complex schools where you want to shut down schools. We have schools in Tamil Nadu. We run schools even for one student. That is because education has to be reached to everybody. But what is happening through in this new education policy is that they want to shut down these schools and make it into complex schools. How do girls in rural areas get to these schools? How do depressed class students, school students from oppressed and depressed communities, how do they get to these schools? There are no answer to it. And added to that, they are encouraging these students to go into vocational courses, and they want the students to make a clear choice about the subjects they want to learn. And net connections. They want them to make a knowledgeable choice about what they want, or the subjects they want to choose, and what they want to become. Students who are not exposed to much in this world. So, and after that, if they manage to cross all these hurdles and get into higher education, what was the dream of Dr. Kalaignar? What was the dream of Perarinyar Anna? It was to improve higher education in Tamil Nadu. They wanted to build colleges and take college education to remote areas, and made sure that is what has actually, made such a vast difference in women's education in Tamil Nadu. But what the new education policy today is doing is they've ruined our medical system, our medical education, by bringing in NEET. And today, what they want to do is that they want to bring in these entrance examinations into the higher education system also. And they want to stop the minorities, the girls, and the SCs, STs, and OBCs from getting into universities and colleges, and they don't want them to go in for higher education. So this is the agenda of the RSS. This is what Periyar started fighting against. This is what the justice movement, this is what the Dravidian movement was fighting against. After we've come to a point where Tamil Nadu is one of the states which is leading in higher education. We have managed to move towards social justice. But the BJP government today, in the central, with its brute majority, today is doing its best to do away with everything we've built. And this is when the relevance, the rethinking, the relook at Periyar has to happen. Because they're chipping away at all levels. All the institutions have been, the head institutions have been made into people from the RSS, or with a RSS or a Sangh Parivar bent of thoughts and mind. And all the institutions, they're trying to fill it up with people with their ideology. And you can see the open threat on the Bollywood. We've seen what happened to the media houses in this country. And today, they are moving into education. They're moving into all the bills. They're taking away federal rights. Every bill this government passes takes away the rights of the states. Another example from this new education policy is it's a list which is has to be decided by consent between the state and the center. It's in a common list, but the central government is making all decisions, the syllabus, the way it has to be taught, how the schools have to function. So it's completely taking over the education thing from all the rights the state had to the center list. It's literally becoming their property. It is becoming something which they have complete rights over. And this is exactly where they want education to be. They want to take away education from, because we've made it something which is affordable, reachable, and possible to the larger majority, the OBCs, the SCs and the STs, and women and minorities. But the agenda of the RSS is to, like they talk about when they about education policy, they talk about Nalanda, Takshila. When did any of us get in there? We were not allowed. And that is what Periyar wanted to break. And that is what they are trying to rebuild today. And today, all the voices of dissent are silenced. The way we see media houses, the way they're threatened, the way the editors are threatened, the way the reporters are threatened, they want to silence every voice of dissent. And the political parties, they target political parties just not with their, CBI or IT. They target them with any, they connect them with any organization which the political party is not connected to. And then they target their political opponents using them. So this silencing the majority, this silencing the majority which the BJP, the RSS and the Sangh Parivars have been continuously making an effort, continuously doing, is to make sure that nothing comes in between them and their larger agenda. Their larger agenda of making sure that this country is a Hindu country, that this country is a country where everybody speaks Hindi, and this country is a homogeneous country according to what they believe has to be built. So this is where the relevance of Periyar, who was he did not believe in anything. He was a complete iconoclast. He did not believe in language. He did not believe in barriers. He did not believe in the gender differences. He did not. He was one leader who had the courage to say, "Do not follow anything which I say." How many leaders would have that courage to say, "Don't even listen to what I say if it goes against your common sense"? So he was a leader who said free thinking is important, independence is important, individuality is important, self-respect is important. But today, what the BJP wants is take away free thinking, take away self-respect, take away questioning. He said question everything. That is what an iconoclast does. That is what a non-believer does. You question everything. That is scientific temper. Today, the government wants to take away that scientific temper. We have a prime minister who goes to a plastic surgeon's conference and he says that, Shiva's son had the greatest plastic surgery possible. They took away his head and replaced it with an elephant's head. And he said, we are the forerunners. And I really would love to talk to some of the plastic surgeons there. And, they must have been aghast. But our Prime Minister said that. In the floor of the parliament, BJP parliamentarian says that, science today says that we all descended from apes. That's wrong. We all descended from rishis. So this is the kind of nonsense. This is the kind of things which they want people to believe. And this new education policy, I think one of its agendas is to take away that myth, that line, that wall between what is mythology and what is history. Take that away. They want to recreate mythology as history. That is why today we've seen a cultural committee, which the cultural ministry has, to go back and document and do research and create what is called as the Indian culture or the Indian history, which is around 12,000 years old. And that committee does not have one woman, one Dalit, and I don't think it has any OBCs, backward communities. It does not have even one minority. But sure enough, it has somebody who belongs to a Brahmin Sangam from, I mean, European Brahmin Sangam or the North American or something, But he's a chairman or secretary of that. But he is made part of this committee. But whereas nobody else is represented, no other scholars who represent any other section is been allowed to be in this committee. So this Brahmin agenda, this Sanskritization of the country and the community is what today we are looking at. Where Periyar becomes very, very, very relevant is somebody had the courage to ask these questions, not today, but so many years ago. And there's nothing that would, stopped him from asking these questions. When he said caste was wrong, and people said that, it is God who created caste. When he said gender differences are wrong, and the answer was that, God had created that. He said, fine, if God is the person who is responsible for all this, then let us do away with God. So that is the kind of questioning, that is the kind of commitment, that is the kind of guts we're talking about, and that is what we need today. We cannot shy away from asking these questions because that is the kind of fear they are installing among everybody, about the thinkers, about the writers, about that you cannot question religion. Every religion, the first question they ask is, why are you only questioning? People tend to question more about Hinduism. I'm sure, we know today the world is connected. They are asking questions about their religions. In Islamic countries, it's not that people are not asking questions about Islam. So what affects them is what people have to be questioning. And caste is something which is there even today in India. And we have to question it. But then asking any question, anything, turned into insulting gods, insulting religion, insulting majority sentiments. I'd like to know, when has there been any time in history when majority sentiments have not been questioned, when say what the majority has believed in has not been questioned? Never. I'm sure when people were talking about black rights, when people were talking about taking away slavery, abolishing slavery, it was against the sentiments of the majority. But that cannot make us shy away. Everywhere, when women wanted voting rights, it was against half the population of the world. But did that stop us? Did that make us shy away and move away for asking for our rights? We cannot. So when it comes to a majority or so-called majority which they are creating, and say that they keep repeating that their sentiments are getting hurt, that we cannot raise questions which hurt us, affect our lives. When it comes to religion, every religion is hurt by the gender imbalances. Society gets hurt. Society gets hurt by caste system. Society gets hurt by superstitions. Society gets hurt by how can you not, it could be against asking questions against religion. How do you stop asking questions about child abuse? We know what happened. Why should you stop asking questions to the church? Because it might hurt the sentiments of some. Can we shy away from these questions? We cannot. It is injustice. So these exactly the same questions have to be asked in India today, and we cannot afford to shy away. And that is what Periyar has given us, that is the lesson Periyar has taught us, that never shy away from these questions. It could be, they can say election, it's against election politics, it's against development, they can say, give it different names and faces, but whatever form it comes. One small example, that the divide between North and South, and how they don't care to even understand our sentiments. It's not about Tamil Nadu. We all know Onam in Kerala. They celebrate Mahabali. They don't celebrate Vamana. They think Vamana was a cheat. He cheated Mahabali. But who do these people celebrate when they want to wish the Malayalis for Onam? They say, let us celebrate Vamana. We saw that the Malayalis were insulted, were hurt, because they cannot think of celebrating an Ashura king. That goes against their agenda, that goes against their Aryan beliefs, their Deva superiority. So this is a wipe away whatever has been created as an answer to their suppression of a majority. They are against the majority Hindus. They are against the majority Indians. They are against, has the BJP, they promised in their manifesto to bring the women's reservation bill. Have they done it? They will not. Because their religion, their way of looking at religion has taught them to believe that the male is superior. A woman cannot be treated equally. A woman will not be treated equally. When you celebrate the Purush, the woman is a second-rate citizen. How can you have equal number of women in the parliament or legislative assemblies? That cannot be acceptable to them. A woman can be a mother. She can become a mother goddess. She can become a cow. But she cannot become a fellow parliamentarian. So this is the agenda they are trying to bring back and establish in this country. And this is exactly what Periyar warned us about. And this is exactly, just because he has done his duty, just because that we've finished a struggle, one struggle was over, and we've started moving in a path he wanted us to move into. Today, there are obstacles created. There are obstacles which we do not even understand or decipher as yet. But we have to continue in our path to fight it every moment. We cannot let one thing go by without challenging it. We cannot let one moment go by without being aware and without understanding what is happening. If we do that, then we will be pushed back 500, 600,000 years, and we have to start our struggle all over again. So we are standing at a very, very crucial point in history. This point is going to decide whether we are going to lose everything our forefathers have fought for and have achieved, or are we going to go back to what our forefathers suffered and tolerated? Is that the point we are going to, or are we going to push forth and struggle and fight for our freedom and our self-respect? Thank you.